One anonymous message shattered 18 years of marriage in an instant. The picture of my wife with another man was shocking, but her reaction when I confronted her with proof was pure malice. What she said next made me realize I'd never truly known the woman I married. Neither had our teenage son, who had been secretly trying to protect me. My name is Chandler Hicks. I'm 44, and I used to think I had life figured out. I work as an IT manager at a mid-sized tech startup in Denver, Colorado. For 18 years, I've been married to Miranda, and together we have a 17-year-old son, Dylan. On paper, we look like the perfect American family: nice suburban home, stable jobs, a kid preparing for college. But as I found out the hard way, paper doesn't show the full story. It all started falling apart on a Tuesday in late October. I remember because the leaves had just started to turn, and Miranda had complained about needing to rake them before her parents came for Thanksgiving. She hurried around the kitchen, gulping coffee and checking her phone every few seconds. Nothing unusual there. She'd always been the multitasking type. "Dylan's going to be late again if he doesn't get moving," Miranda said without looking up. I called upstairs to our son, who'd been having trouble getting to school on time lately. His grades had started slipping, too, and our arguments about his attitude and responsibility were becoming more frequent. Typical teenage stuff, or so we thought. "Big presentation today," Miranda announced, finally tossing her phone into her purse. "The Peterson account. If it goes well, I might finally get that regional manager promotion." She worked in sales for a pharmaceutical company and had been chasing that promotion for months. Late nights, weekend meetings, endless client dinners. I'd supported her, even felt proud of her drive. But I'd be lying if I said it hadn't put pressure on our family. "You'll do great," I told her, kissing her on the cheek. "You've been preparing for weeks." She smiled, but it felt forced. "Thanks, babe. Don't wait up tonight. The team's planning to celebrate, win or lose." After she left, I sat in the kitchen with my second cup of coffee, listening to Dylan moving around upstairs. Lately, the house had felt different. There was a tension I couldn't explain, like we were all walking on eggshells. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I thought it was spam, until I opened it. What I saw made my blood run cold. "You deserve to know the truth about your wife." Attached was a photo that would change everything. I stared at it, my coffee cooling in my hand. It showed Miranda sitting at a fancy bar downtown, leaning in close to a man I didn't recognize. Too close. His hand rested on her thigh, and she was laughing at something he said. The timestamp? Last night. The same night she'd claimed to be celebrating with her coworkers. My hand trembled. I set the phone down and stared out the window, trying to process what I'd just seen. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe it was just a coworker and the camera angle made it look worse. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. Then another message came. "This isn't the first time. She's been lying to you for months." Attached were 3 more pictures. Miranda getting into a car with the same man, walking into a hotel lobby holding his hand, kissing him goodnight outside what looked like his apartment. It felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My world spun, and I had to grab the counter to stay upright. 18 years of marriage, reduced to this. My wife sneaking around like some reckless teenager. I called in sick to work. There was no way I could sit through meetings pretending life was normal. Instead, I spent the day digging. Bank statements, credit card charges, her social media, anything that could connect the dots. What I found made my stomach twist. Hotel stays she'd claimed were client meetings. Restaurant receipts from places we'd never been together. Gas charges across town, nowhere near her office. The worst part wasn't her betrayal. It was how foolish I'd been. All those late nights, all those work events, all those times she came home smelling like another man's cologne, brushing off my questions with a laugh and a kiss. I'd trusted her completely. She'd played me like a fool. Dylan came home around 3:30, slamming the door and heading straight to his room without a word. Normally, I'd have asked about his day, maybe talked about his grades, but I couldn't handle another argument. Around 5, my phone rang. It was Miranda. "Hey babe, just wanted to let you know the presentation went great," she said cheerfully. "The client loved our proposal." "That's great," I managed, trying to sound calm. "I'll be late again tonight. The team wants to take me out to celebrate, and I can't really say no to my future colleagues." Future colleagues. I wondered if she even remembered which lies she'd told, or if deceiving me had just become second nature. "Sure thing. Have fun." After hanging up, I sat alone in the quiet house, trying to decide what to do next. Should I confront her right away? Hire a private investigator? Pack a bag and disappear? None of it felt real. But one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let her keep making a fool out of me. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, those images flashed in my mind. Miranda laughing with another man, her hand on his chest, looking at him the way she used to look at me. By 4 in the morning, I gave up and went downstairs to my home office. I opened a notebook and began listing everything I could recall from the past few months. Every late meeting, every conference, every time she came home with another excuse about traffic or a client dinner that ran late. The pattern was obvious now that I knew where to look. I opened my laptop and dug deeper into her finances. What I found made my stomach tighten. 3 separate hotel charges in the last 2 months, all downtown. Restaurant receipts from places I'd never heard of. Even a purchase for flowers that never made it home. But the worst came from our phone records. I logged into our family account and started scrolling through Miranda's call history. One number appeared again and again, sometimes for hours, often in the middle of the night. I wrote it down and ran a reverse lookup. The name that appeared made my blood boil: David Brennan. A quick search showed he was a regional sales director at a rival pharmaceutical company. Married, 2 kids. The kind of man who looked polished on the outside, while wrecking 2 families for a thrill. My hands clenched into fists. Around 7, I heard Dylan moving upstairs, getting ready for school. I closed the laptop and started making coffee, forcing myself to act normal. When he came down, he just muttered a greeting. "Dylan, we need to talk about your grades," I said, trying to sound like a regular parent again. "Whatever, Dad. I'm handling it," he replied, grabbing a piece of toast. "Your mother and I are worried about you." He stopped chewing and gave me a strange look. "Are you?" Because it seems like Mom's been pretty distracted lately. The way he said it made my stomach drop. Had he noticed something too? Kids sense tension better than adults sometimes. "What do you mean?" I asked. He shrugged. "Nothing. Just that she's never home anymore." After he left for school, I made up my mind. I wouldn't confront Miranda until I had undeniable proof. If she wanted to play games, I'd beat her at them. I called in sick again and spent the day building a timeline of her lies. By evening, I had a folder thick with evidence, bank statements, phone logs, and screenshots of the photos that stranger had sent me. I wasn't a clueless husband anymore. I was preparing a case. When Miranda came home around 9, claiming another client dinner, I was ready. "How was your day?" she asked, kissing my cheek like everything was fine. "Productive," I said, watching her face closely. "Very productive." The next morning, I did something that would have been unthinkable a week earlier. I decided to follow my wife. Miranda left for work at her usual time, saying she had early meetings with potential clients. I waited 15 minutes, then got in my car and drove to her office. Her BMW wasn't there. I felt like some second-rate detective, but I didn't care. I needed the truth. I drove to the downtown Marriott, the same hotel that kept appearing on our statements. Sure enough, her car was in the parking garage. My heart pounded as I found a spot where I could watch without being seen. At 10:30, Miranda walked out of the hotel lobby with David Brennan. They were laughing, holding hands like teenagers. The sight made me want to break something, but I forced myself to stay calm and keep watching. They got into a silver Mercedes and drove across town to a coffee shop. I followed from a distance, parking where I could see through the window. They sat close together, her hand on his arm, smiling at something on his phone. I snapped a few pictures with my phone. The quality wasn't perfect, but it was clear enough. My wife of 18 years was cheating on me, and now I had proof. After an hour, they split up. Miranda drove to her actual office while David went the opposite way. I followed her, watching as she parked and walked in like she'd been there all morning. That afternoon, I did something I never imagined I would. I called a divorce lawyer. The receptionist booked me for a consultation the following week. Just making that call felt like stepping off a cliff, but I knew I had to protect myself. When I got home, Dylan was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with his homework spread out. For once, he actually seemed to be doing it. "How was school today?" I asked, trying to sound like an ordinary dad. "Okay, I guess." Dylan looked up, and there was something uneasy in his eyes. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure, son. What's up?" He fidgeted with his pencil. "Are you and Mom having problems?" The question hit like a punch to the chest. "Why would you ask that?" "I don't know," he said. "Things just feel different." Mom's never home, and when she is, she's distant. And you've been acting weird, too. I sat down across from him, debating how much truth to share. Your mom and I are going through a rough patch, but that's not your fault, okay? Sometimes adults have things to work out. Dylan nodded slowly, but his expression told me he wasn't buying the calm explanation. Is she cheating on you? The bluntness froze me. Dylan, that's not. Because I saw her, he interrupted quietly. Last week. At the mall. With some guy? They were holding hands. My world tilted. My own son had seen his mother's betrayal and carried it alone. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice barely steady. His eyes filled with tears. I didn't want to hurt you. I kept hoping I was wrong. The weekend passed in a blur of forced smiles and fake normalcy. Miranda played the perfect wife, making pancakes on Saturday, suggesting a family movie night, asking Dylan about college applications. Her act was flawless, which somehow made it even worse. By Monday morning, I'd had enough. After Miranda left for work, I called David Brennan's office directly. This is Chandler Hicks, I told the secretary. I need to speak to David about my wife, Miranda. It's urgent. There was a pause. I'm sorry, Mr. Hicks, but David's in meetings all morning. Tell him it's about the photos, I said. He'll make time. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Listen, I don't know what you think, David started, his tone defensive. I know everything. I cut him off. The hotel, the restaurants, the lies. I've got photos, phone logs, credit card records, everything. The silence on the other end stretched painfully long. Then, what do you want? I want you to stay away from my wife. End it today, or I'll make sure your boss, your wife, and everyone else know exactly who you are. You can't threaten me. That's not a threat, I said coldly. It's a promise. You have 24 hours to cut all contact with Miranda, or your life blows up. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from fury and adrenaline. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control again. That evening, Miranda came home earlier than usual. She was restless, checking her phone constantly, barely touching her dinner. Everything okay at work? I asked casually. Fine, she snapped, then softened. Sorry, just a stressful day. Client issues. Around 9, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and declined the call, but I caught the name. David. Who was that? I asked. Nobody. Probably spam. The phone rang again. This time, she turned it off completely. Persistent spammer, I said flatly. Miranda gave a nervous laugh. Yeah, they're getting ridiculous lately. I went to bed knowing the storm had started. Whatever David told her, whatever panic she was feeling, it was only the beginning. The next morning, Miranda announced she was taking a sick day. Think I'm coming down with something, she said, though she looked perfectly fine. After Dylan left for school, she locked herself in her office, talking on the phone for hours. I could hear the tension in her voice, sharp, anxious, rising into near panic. By evening, I knew it was time. I had everything I needed, the proof, the timeline, and her guilty behavior. Her affair might have ended, thanks to my call to David, but that wasn't enough. Not even close. After dinner, when Dylan was upstairs with his homework, Miranda sat in the living room pretending to watch TV, her eyes fixed on her silent phone. Miranda, I said, taking a seat across from her. We need to talk. She looked up, fear flickering in her eyes. About what? She asked softly. I pulled out my phone and opened one of the hotel photos. About this. Her face went pale as the image came into view. For a moment, she just stared at the photo, her mouth opening and closing like she was searching for words that wouldn't come. Where did you get this? She finally managed to ask. Does it matter? I replied, keeping my voice calm and measured. The question is, how long has this been going on? Chandler, I can explain, she started. Can you? Because I'd love to hear you explain 6 months of lies straight to my face. I'd love to hear you explain the hotel charges, the secret calls, the money you've been spending on your boyfriend. Miranda began to cry, but these weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of someone caught red-handed. It's not what it looks like, she sobbed. Not what it looks like, I said, my voice rising. You've been having an affair while I work 60-hour weeks to provide for this family. You don't understand? Things have been hard between us. We barely talk. We never spend time together. So that gives you the right to betray me, lie to our son, and steal from our savings to pay for your affair? Her tears stopped abruptly. How do you know about the money? I know everything, Miranda. Bank statements, calls, texts. I even know about the fake promotion celebration, which you spent celebrating with David Brennan instead. She flinched at his name. I want to congratulate you. I continued, my voice hardening. You got exactly what you wanted, the promotion you've been chasing for months. Too bad you won't enjoy it, because yesterday I showed David some very interesting photos. Let's see how you explain interdepartmental relationships to HR. You didn't, Miranda whispered, her face going pale. Oh, I did. And that's just the start. I've documented everything. Every lie, every stolen dollar, every time you pretended to be a faithful wife. My lawyer says I have an excellent case for divorce based on adultery and financial misconduct. Miranda jumped to her feet, anger replacing fear. You can't do this to me. We have a family. Think about Dylan. I am thinking about Dylan, I replied. I'm thinking about the example you've set for him, about how you've been lying to him just as much as you lied to me. This is all your fault, she shouted, finally dropping the mask. If you had been a better husband, paid attention to me, none of this would have happened. There it is, I said, standing to face her. The real Miranda. No tears, no apologies. Just blaming everyone else for your choices. You made a mistake? 6 months isn't a mistake, Miranda. It's a choice you made every day. From upstairs came the sound of Dylan's bedroom door opening. We both looked toward the stairs as our son appeared, his face a mix of anger and pain. I heard everything, Dylan said, his voice trembling. Mom, how could you do this to us? Miranda reached for him. Dylan, sweetheart, let me explain. Don't. Dylan cut her off, stepping back. Just don't. I already knew about your boyfriend. I've known for weeks. Miranda's shocked expression was almost comical. Do you want to know what your affair did to our family? I asked. It turned our 17-year-old son into a liar, carrying your secret, protecting you from the consequences of your actions. Tears filled Dylan's eyes. I'm sorry, Dad. I should have told you sooner. No, son. This isn't your responsibility. This is between your mother and me. I turned back to Miranda, who was crying again. I felt nothing for her tears. You have until Friday to find somewhere else to live, I told her. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings. The next morning, Miranda was gone. 2 packed suitcases, no note, no explanation, just an empty closet and the lingering smell of her perfume. Dylan found me in the kitchen staring at my coffee. She's really gone, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, she's gone. Good, he said, then corrected himself. I mean, it's better this way, right? I pulled him into a hug. It's going to be hard for a while, but yes, it's better. We deserve honesty in this house. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Miranda's sister, Carol, calling from Seattle. Chandler, what the hell is going on? Carol demanded. Miranda showed up at my door crying hysterically this morning, saying you threw her out over some misunderstanding. Did she tell you about the affair? Silence on her end. What affair? She finally asked, her voice trembling. I explained the basic facts, the photos, the hotel meetings, the lies. After a long pause, she said, I knew you were having marriage problems, but I thought it was because you'd grown cold and distant. Carol, she stole money from our savings to pay for hotel rooms with her boyfriend. This wasn't just marriage problems. Oh God, Chandler. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I need you to know Dylan and I are okay. We'll get through this. What about Miranda? She made her choices. Now she has to live with the consequences. That afternoon, my lawyer called. Miranda had already hired an attorney and was claiming I forced her out without cause. She was planning to fight the adultery claim. My lawyer explained, her attorney argues the photos could be doctored, and there's no concrete proof of physical infidelity. The hotel receipts and phone records? Circumstantial. According to her attorney, they planned to argue that Miranda had been struggling emotionally and made some bad decisions, but nothing that legally counted as adultery. I felt my jaw tighten. Even now, she was trying to rewrite history. What do we do? I asked my lawyer. Stick to the facts and let the evidence speak for itself. Meanwhile, don't let her back in the house unsupervised and document everything. That evening, Dylan and I ordered pizza and watched a football game. For the first time in months, the house felt calm. No tension, no lies, no tiptoeing around each other. Dad, can I ask you something? Dylan said during halftime. Anything. Do you think Mom ever really loved us? The question hit me hard. Of course she did, son. She still does in her own way. People can love their family and still make terrible choices. I don't understand how she could do what she did if she loved us. Neither do I, Dylan. Neither do I. My phone buzzed. A text from Miranda. Please let me come home. We can work this out. I showed Dylan the message. What will you say? He asked. Nothing. Actions have consequences. She's just beginning to learn hers. I deleted the message without replying. A week later, Miranda's parents arrived at her door. I hadn't seen Bill and Susan Peterson since last Christmas, when things were still relatively normal. Chandler, we need to talk, Bill said sternly. I invited them in, keeping the conversation in the living room so Dylan could hear if necessary. Miranda told us about the divorce, Susan said, her voice tight. She says you're being unreasonable. Did she explain why? Bill shifted. She said there were misunderstandings, trust issues. Trust issues, I said, showing them one of the hotel photos. This is your daughter with another man for 10 months. She's been lying to all of us. Susan gasped and covered her mouth. Bill's face reddened with anger, though not at me. Miranda said you were the one having an affair, Susan whispered. She said you'd been distant and secretive, coming home late, and she suspected you were seeing someone. Your daughter stole money from our savings to pay for hotel rooms with her boyfriend. She's been lying to Dylan and me every day for nearly a year, and now she's trying to make me the villain. Dylan appeared in the doorway, drawn by the raised voices. Tell them, I said. Tell your grandparents what you saw. Dylan took a deep breath and spoke quietly but clearly. I saw Mom with another man at the mall. They were holding hands and kissing, and I heard her on the phone at night saying she loved him. Susan began to cry. Bill put his arm around her and looked at me with what might have been respect. We had no idea, Bill said. Miranda painted a very different picture. She's been doing that for months. What do you need from us? Bill asked. The question caught me off guard. I'm not sure I understand. Dylan is our grandson, our family. Regardless of what Miranda did, what do you need from us to get through this? I felt a small weight lift in my chest. Just don't let her turn you against us. Dylan will need his grandparents, especially now. Susan wiped her eyes and hugged Dylan tightly. We would never abandon you, sweetheart. Never. After they left, Dylan and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. I was scared they might believe her lies, Dylan admitted. So was I said. But the truth has a way of coming out, especially with good people involved. Are we going to be okay, Dad? I put my arm around him. Yeah, we're going to be fine. Better than fine. We're going to build something honest here, something we can both be proud of. That night, Miranda texted again. My parents won't even take my calls now. You've turned everyone against me. This time, I replied, I didn't turn anyone against you. I just told them the truth. She didn't respond. 3 months later, Dylan and I found ourselves in a cold, sterile conference room downtown, sitting across a mahogany table from Miranda and her lawyer, a table probably worth more than most people's cars. Miranda looked different, thinner, somehow older, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't hide. Her lawyer, a sharply dressed woman named Victoria Banks, had been making unreasonable demands for weeks. Half the house, half my retirement fund, alimony that would have left Dylan and me barely scraping by. My client is willing to accept 60% of the marital assets, Victoria announced, as if she were doing us a favor. My lawyer, Tom Richardson, didn't flinch. Your client committed adultery and stole from the family savings. She's lucky we're not pursuing criminal charges for theft. Miranda spoke up, voice shaking. Chandler, please. I made mistakes, but I'm Dylan's mother. I need something to start over. You should have thought about that before destroying our family, I replied calmly. The meeting dragged on for 2 hours, but eventually, Miranda's position became clear. She had no leverage. The evidence of her affair was overwhelming, and her theft of our savings was documented down to the last penny. In the end, she agreed to a settlement splitting the assets 40-60 in my favor, with her receiving the smaller share. She would have supervised visitation with Dylan until he turned 18, and no alimony since the divorce was based on her adultery. As we left the courthouse, Dylan was waiting for me on the steps. How'd it go, Dad? He asked. It's over. She signed the papers. Dylan nodded, emotions mixed on his face. Despite everything, she was still his mother. Are you okay? I asked. Yeah, it's just weird. Like this is really the end of our family as we knew it. No, son. This is the beginning of our family as it should be, built on truth and trust. That evening, we had dinner at my parents' house. Mom had made pot roast, and Dad kept the conversation light, talking about Dylan's college applications and my plans to renovate the guest room. You two seem happier, Mom observed while we cleared the dishes. She was right. The constant tension was gone, replaced by something I hadn't felt in months: peace. A week later, I got a text from Miranda. Can I see Dylan this weekend? I showed Dylan the message. It's up to you, I said. After thinking it over, he replied, maybe, but only if you're there too. I'm not ready to be alone with her yet. That's fair. You don't have to do anything you're uncomfortable with. Thanks, Dad, for everything. For fighting for us, for not letting her destroy our family completely. I hugged my son, grateful for the man he was becoming despite everything. We're going to be just fine, Dylan. Better than fine. 6 months after the divorce, Dylan graduated as valedictorian. I sat in the auditorium, listening to his speech about perseverance and integrity, prouder than ever. Miranda was there, 3 rows behind me with her sister Carol. We had reached a point where we could be civil for Dylan's sake, though I felt nothing for her anymore. No anger, no hurt, just indifference. After the ceremony, Dylan found me in the crowd. We did it, Dad, he said, grinning and showing me his diploma. You did it, son. All on your own. Not all on my own. You were there every step. Miranda approached cautiously. Dylan, I'm so proud of you, she said quietly. Thanks, Mom, Dylan replied, his voice distant, a distance that hadn't been there a year ago. She looked at me, a fleeting look of regret in her eyes. Chandler, I know I don't have the right to ask, but do you think you could ever forgive me? I looked at the woman who had once been the center of my world, who had shared my dreams and bed for 18 years, who had helped me raise this incredible young man. I already have forgiven you, Miranda. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending what you did was okay. It means I won't let your choices poison the rest of my life. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and walked away with her sister. That fall, Dylan started college at Colorado State University on a full scholarship. The house felt empty without him, but it was a good kind of empty, the emptiness of possibilities, not loss. I started dating again, slowly and carefully. Nothing serious yet, but I was learning to trust my instincts again, to believe not everyone would lie to me like Miranda had. Dane Hayes, my best friend, who had supported me through the worst, often came over on weekends to watch football and eat too much pizza. You know what I like about you now? He said one Sunday afternoon. What? You're not walking on eggshells anymore. For years, I worried about saying the wrong thing, upsetting Miranda. Now I just exist. He was right. I had forgotten what it felt like to live without constantly analyzing every word, every action, every expression for signs of displeasure or deceit. That Christmas, Dylan came home full of stories about his classes, friends, and plans for the future. Miranda called on Christmas Eve, as agreed, to speak with Dylan for 20 minutes while I decorated the tree. After he hung up, Dylan sat beside me. She asked if I thought you'd ever remarry. I said, "What did you tell her?" I told her you deserve to be happy. I looked at my son, almost a man now, stronger because of what he'd endured. I am happy, I said. Right here, right now? Happier than I've been in years. Good, Dylan said. Because you deserve it, Dad. You really do. As I watched the snowfall outside, I realized he was right. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed me had freed me to build something better, something honest, something real. And that was worth everything I had lost.